This is ridiculous. We just learned massive information surrounding why Kevin Durant didn't end up in Miami at the NBA trade deadline, and really just how drastic of a trade package they were looking for in return to the multiple time scoring champion. I'm here to break down all of the new information that we have on this episode of Heat Digest. But first, remember, as you guys know, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, scroll down and click the subscribe button. We do appreciate all the love and support, so thank you guys. But now let's get to it and break down why Kevin Durant did not end up in Miami. Now, the conversation surrounding Kevin Durant and the possibility of him landing in Miami, this is pre-trade deadline, were very brief, and they really did not really explode and have really any heaviness and really any idea that they were true behind them until we saw the Luka and AD trade. And when that happened, obviously it felt like the NBA was on the verge of erupting. And then we started hearing murmurs and rumors that the Phoenix Suns and Ishbia were looking to possibly move Kevin Durant, whether it was to the Golden State Warriors or other possible suitors, including the Miami Heat. They could have been open to it. And again, it seemed like they were secretly doing it for at least 10 days to 2 weeks worth of time leading up to the expiration of the NBA trade deadline on February 6th at 3 p.m. Now, this is very intriguing, as we all know Jimmy Butler's main goal throughout this entire season, at least, was to get to Phoenix. And obviously because he anticipated them to not only give them a contract extension, but he also wanted to play alongside his friend in Kevin Durant. Now, there were small rumors about the possibility of trading Durant for Butler as well as other assets, but now we're finding out that the actual package tagged alongside Jimmy Butler would have been so drastic. I'm not sure if the Miami Heat would have had enough players to be eligible to play basketball games for the rest of the season. And no, I am not kidding. Dan Le Batard broke this down on his show with his other guest and co-host, and it was a bit crazy of a conversation, I will say. For what Dan Le Batard said, it was not crazy. It seemed like he's getting all his information from sources, and again, it's credible. For the other comments made by the other people like Michael Ryan Ruiz as well as Chris Cody, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. It's a bit different. Well, again, we'll get to that in just a second. But starting with what Dan Le Batard said about the package that would be required to send obviously Jimmy Butler as well as others to Phoenix in order for this Miami Heat team to land a 36-year-old Phoenix Suns star player in Kevin Durant. And again, Le Batard goes on to say, and I quote, "The ask was, according to the people I talked to, our entire team. It wasn't Jaquez and Ware. It was, quote, they wanted our whole team," end of quote. Dan says the Suns' asking price for Kevin Durant was simply too steep for the Heat. Now, if you go to his Twitter page and you listen to this actual clip, which I believe is just over 90 seconds long, he goes into depth. Again, he elaborates that it wasn't just Ware and Jaquez that they were looking for. Obviously, not just Jovic that they were looking for. This is Butler at the center of this trade, okay? And then we're adding Ware, Jaquez, Jovic, probably Rozier, probably Duncan Robinson, of someone like a Hayward Highsmith, like a substantial trade, setting back this Miami Heat team not only this year, but for years to come. Now, just think about how good we've been in the draft for the last 3, 4, 5 years. All of it would become obsolete just to go out and get a 36-year-old Kevin Durant, who I'm not going to argue is one of the best players that I have ever watched in my 25 years of living. But he is 36 years of age. And if we look at this contract, he's under contract for one more season before becoming an unrestricted free agent. And also, that price is hefty for this year as well as the following year. Again, that being the final year of his contract, again, that he was given by the Brooklyn Nets before traded to the Phoenix Suns. And again, you can't really crack Matt Ishbia, for going out there and attempting to get a king's ransom and more for someone like Kevin Durant because of what they gave up to go out and acquire him. If you guys don't remember, this is what that looked like. The Nets obviously were the holders of Kevin Durant as he was out in Brooklyn playing alongside players like Kyrie Irving as well as others. And then there was a massive trade. And if you guys don't remember, it looked like this. The Nets got Mikal Bridges, who is now in New York, playing with the Knicks, as well as Cameron Johnson, who is still in Brooklyn. And again, he had massive trade conversations surrounding him this trade deadline because it seemed like he could be a very valuable piece on a competitor trying to compete for an NBA championship. He did not end up being moved because of the asking price by the Brooklyn Nets. But again, we move on. A 2023 first-round pick from Phoenix, a 2025 first-round pick from Phoenix, a 2027 first-round pick from Phoenix, and then obviously a 2028 first-round pick from Phoenix, and then a 2028 second-round pick from Milwaukee, a 2029 first-round pick from Phoenix, which in 2029 second-round pick from Milwaukee. That all went to Brooklyn in exchange for Kevin Durant, and obviously TJ Warren also ended up in Phoenix as well. The Bucks got Jay Crowder. The Pacers got George Hill, Serge Ibaka, Jordan Nora, as well as 3 future second-round picks from Milwaukee and cash considerations from Brooklyn. This was a blockbuster, monster trade for all teams involved, especially the Brooklyn Nets, as they got a substantial amount of assets. Obviously, 2 very, very legitimate players, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks only from Phoenix. That's not even counting the other 2 picks coming from Milwaukee. A substantial trade. 7 draft picks, as well as 2 key players. One of them that they ended up trading to New York. But again, the idea is the same. Matt Ishbia knew what he gave up in order to go out and get Kevin Durant, which again, you can't crack him for. I don't care if he's 45 years old, 55 years old. If he looks the way he does, or the ways he has in the past in his career, which has been long and illustrious. It's 17 years long. If there's not a blemish on this resume from start to finish. He won the Rookie of the Year, averaging 20 points per game. He never averaged anything less than that in the following 16 years of his career. And again, came into the league at 19, has been playing basketball at the highest level possible since then. Yes, he has jumped team from team. You can't argue that. He went and joined a Golden State team that didn't need any help. And he went out there to win a championship, a multiple-time MVP, a multiple-time scoring champion, one of the greatest scorers to ever play the game of basketball. It's not something up for debate. If you go back and you watch the tape and you look at the stats even, and then you compare him to other elite-level scorers, Durant is up there in a class of very, very few. And I understand why it was very lucrative and very, very just appealing to think of Kevin Durant possibly landing with Miami, but not when you have to give up such a substantial piece of the roster. Now, this is the updated depth chart. I understand, but just bear with me. Players like Rozier, players like Jaquez, players like Pelle Larsson, players like Jaime Jaquez, players like Jovic, players like Kel'el Ware are all going to be packaged in this trade in order to go out and acquire Kevin Durant, as well as Jimmy Butler. So again, that is the entirety of this team, not only for the present, but also for the future. Kel'el Ware, Pelle Larsson, Jovic, Jaquez, these guys are going to be the cornerstones of this Miami Heat franchise going forward. Now, obviously, I'm not saying they are going to be the franchise going forward, but they are going to be key pieces to this franchise, and not only just building blocks as well as stepping stones for this Miami Heat team to know we have these young guys that have been gaining experience year after year after year, and with that they are going to become bigger and bigger pieces year after year after year. It would have been awesome to see Durant in Miami. I'm not going to argue that. I would have loved to see Durant in Miami, but again, with 1 year left on his contract, as someone who is currently 36 years of age, going into, again, the final year of his contract where he'd be paid $54.7 million per in that year at age 37 before becoming an unrestricted free agent. It would have not been a very good move for this Miami Heat team to go out there and attempt to acquire this young man and hope that he would push this needle after resetting their team in the process of doing so. Again, it's very interesting. It's very intriguing to see what Durant does this upcoming offseason as well as the following year. If he does land, or if he does remain in Phoenix, I should say, until he does become an unrestricted free agent. I'm going to say it now. It feels like the Miami Heat are going to have at least a little bit of a chance to go out and acquire Kevin Durant when this offseason does come, if not the following offseason, if he does remain in Phoenix for this up and coming season. So again, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Let me know down below what you guys think about the possibility or the idea of moving so many young assets and so many key assets to this Miami Heat roster for someone in an aging, really all-time scorer in Kevin Durant. I'll see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest. I do appreciate you guys watching. And again, remember to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on everything Miami Heat.